Medical Officer Ji-woo Park floated through the silent debris field, her magnetic boots occasionally touching twisted metal to adjust her trajectory. The battle had ended 6 hours ago, the human fleet retreating to safer space with their wounded. Only medical personnel remained, searching for survivors among the wreckage. "Command, this is Park. Sector 7 clear. Moving to Sector 8, she reported, her breath fogging her helmet visor slightly. "Copy that, Park. Retrieval shuttles are 15 minutes from departure. Wrap it up quickly." Ji-woo pushed off a chunk of hull plating, sending herself drifting toward the next section of battlefield debris. Her scanner beeped steadily, searching for human life signs. Nothing so far. This had been humanity's first major battle against the Vrexian Empire, and the cost had been steep. A sudden anomaly on her scanner made her pause. "That's strange," she muttered, adjusting the settings. Not human life signs, but something massive and complex. Organic, definitely, but unlike anything in her database. Following the signal, she maneuvered around a destroyed fighter craft and froze. Floating in the void before her was an enormous creature, easily the size of a small shuttle. Its armored carapace gleamed with a bluish iridescence where it wasn't cracked open, revealing pulsing tissue beneath. 6 limbs hung limply, and what appeared to be thruster organs along its flanks leaked glowing blue fluid into space. "A war beast," Ji-woo whispered in awe and terror. Everyone in the fleet had seen footage of these bioengineered monsters, the Vrexians, deployed. Living weapons that tore through ship hulls and shrugged off conventional weapons. Fleet Command had warned them to avoid contact at all costs. Ji-woo turned to leave, then hesitated. Her scanner was picking up complex neural activity. Very complex. She'd expected something simple and vicious, but these readings suggested intelligence far beyond a mere weapon. And it was dying. The creature's huge eye, easily the size of Ji-woo's torso, slowly opened. It was a deep amber color with a vertical pupil that contracted painfully in the harsh light of her helmet lamp. The eye focused on her, and Ji-woo felt a chill run down her spine. She should leave. She should report it. She should... Ji-woo activated her comm. "Command, this is Park. I'm going to need more time. I found another survivor." "We can't wait, Park. The Vrexians could return any moment. Is it one of ours?" Ji-woo looked at the dying creature, blood floating around it in glittering clouds. "Yes," she lied. "Sending coordinates for pickup." "Negative. Get back to your shuttle. We're leaving in 10 minutes with or without you." Ji-woo took a deep breath and made her decision. "Understood. Park out." She detached a small maneuvering pack from her suit and carefully approached the creature. Its eye followed her every movement. "I'm going to try to help you," she said, knowing it couldn't understand. "My shuttle isn't far. Can you move at all?" The creature made no response, but when she cautiously touched its least damaged limb, it didn't attack. Taking that as a good sign, Ji-woo attached her maneuvering pack to one of the creature's limbs and activated it at the lowest setting. The beast was incredibly heavy, but in zero gravity. The small thrusters slowly pushed it forward. Ji-woo guided it, keeping pressure on the worst wounds to slow the bleeding. "My name is Ji-woo," she said as they slowly drifted toward her shuttle. The creature's amber eye remained fixed on her. "I'm going to call you Juan. It means bright, or shining in my language. Seems fitting with all this glowing blood of yours." The journey to her shuttle took precious minutes they didn't have. Ji-woo's hands trembled as she opened the cargo bay doors, large enough for equipment but never intended for a patient 3 times human size. "This is going to be tight," she muttered, carefully maneuvering Juan inside. The war beast barely fit, its limbs folded awkwardly against its body. Ji-woo sealed the bay and pressurized it, then rushed to the cockpit. Her comms crackled. "Medical Shuttle Mercy, this is Command. All personnel accounted for except you. What's your status?" "Taking off now," Ji-woo replied, powering up her engines. "Had trouble with a patient." "Who is it? We don't show any more missing personnel." Ji-woo bit her lip. "Signal's breaking up, Command. We'll explain when I catch up with the fleet." She cut the communication and accelerated away from the debris field, setting course for the fleet's last known position. but keeping enough distance that they wouldn't immediately detect Huan on her scanners. In the cargo bay, Jiwoo worked frantically, adapting her medical equipment to treat an alien biology she barely understood. Huan's breathing was labored, a whistling sound coming from ruptures in what she guessed were respiratory organs. "Stay with me," she urged, injecting a universal coagulant into tissues that thankfully seemed to respond. "I don't know what you are exactly, but you're not just some mindless weapon, are you?" Huan's eye tracked her movements, displaying what seemed like awareness. When Jiwoo applied painful pressure to seal a wound, the creature flinched, but didn't struggle. She worked through the night cycle, monitoring vital signs on equipment that wasn't designed for this anatomy. By morning, as distant stars peeked through the viewport, Huan's condition had stabilized somewhat. Jiwoo sank down beside the creature's massive head, exhausted. "I don't know if you can understand me," she whispered, "but I promise I'm going to try to save you." Huan's eye closed slowly, then opened again. The massive pupil contracted slightly, focusing on her face. And for the briefest moment, Jiwoo felt something brush against her mind, a wisp of feeling that wasn't her own. Gratitude, confusion, and profound pain, all mingled together. "What are you?" she breathed, but the sensation was gone as quickly as it had come. The shuttle drifted through space, carrying its unlikely passengers toward an uncertain destination. Jiwoo knew that bringing Huan aboard had likely ended her career, possibly even her freedom, but looking at the creature's intelligent eye, she couldn't bring herself to regret her choice. Some things were worth risking everything for. Jiwoo's shuttle drifted silently, power systems at minimum to avoid detection. She'd positioned it within a dense cluster of asteroid debris, a temporary hiding place while she continued treating her unusual patient. For 2 days, she'd worked almost without rest, applying everything she knew about xenobiology to keep Huan alive. "Your cellular structure is fascinating," she murmured, examining a tissue sample under her portable microscope. "Self-healing properties unlike anything in our database." Huan's massive eye watched her, more alert now that the worst of the crisis had passed. The war beast had proven surprisingly cooperative, shifting its enormous bulk carefully when she needed to access different wounds. The quiet beeping of her proximity alarm made Jiwoo freeze. "Someone's coming," she whispered, moving to the cockpit viewport. A military shuttle bearing human insignia approached, running lights dimmed. Jiwoo recognized the commanding officer's markings with a sinking feeling. Commander Do-hyun Kim, her direct superior and one of the strictest officers in the fleet. "He must have tracked my shuttle's energy signature," she muttered. "Stay quiet." As if understanding, Huan went completely still in the cargo bay. The incoming transmission light blinked, insistently. Jiwoo took a deep breath and accepted the call. "Medical Officer Park." Commander Kim's stern face filled the screen, his expression thunderous. "You've been reported missing for 53 hours. Explain yourself." "Sir, I found a survivor after the main evacuation. Their injuries required immediate attention." "A survivor not on any manifest? Who exactly did you recover, Officer Park?" Jiwoo hesitated. "Permission to come aboard and see for yourself, sir?" The commander's eyes narrowed with suspicion, but he nodded. "Granted." Minutes later, the airlock cycled, and Commander Kim stepped into Jiwoo's shuttle. His hand rested casually on his sidearm. "Where is this mystery patient, Park?" Jiwoo led him to the cargo bay door. "Sir, I need to warn you, what I found isn't what you're expecting." "Out with it, officer." "It's a Vrexian war beast, sir. But it's not what our intelligence suggested. It's sentient, intelligent." Commander Kim's hand moved to his weapon. "You brought enemy biotech aboard? Have you lost your mind?" "Please. Sir, just look." She opened the door. Commander Kim drew his weapon immediately, aiming at Huan's massive form. "Step away from it, Park. That's an order." Huan remained motionless, its amber eye fixed on the weapon. Jiwoo stepped between them, hands raised. "Sir, it's wounded and hasn't shown any aggression. Our scans indicated these creatures were just mindless weapons, but they're wrong. Look at these neural scans." She pointed to her medical tablet. "This is complex thought activity, awareness, maybe even language processing. It's a weapon, not a patient, Commander Kim snapped. The Vrexians engineered these monsters to tear our ships apart. 5 of our cruisers were destroyed by these things. What if the Vrexians are using an enslaved species? Jiwoo challenged. What if these creatures aren't willing participants in this war? A low rumbling sound came from Hwan, not threatening but almost like a deep pained sigh. Commander Kim's finger tightened on the trigger. Step aside, Officer Park. That's a direct order. Sir, with respect, the values that separate us from the Vrexians are compassion and respect for all sentient life. Jiwoo stood her ground. If we abandon those, what exactly are we fighting for? Before the commander could respond, the proximity alarm blared again, this time at maximum volume. Both officers rushed to the cockpit. Vrexian patrol, Commander Kim hissed, looking at the scanner. 3 scout ships. Jiwoo immediately began powering down all non-essential systems. They must be searching the battlefield for survivors, or retrieving their war beasts. They'll detect our heat signatures soon, Commander Kim said grimly. Not if we power down completely. The asteroid field will mask us if we're running cold. The commander looked at her sharply. And how exactly will your patient survive without life support? Hwan's species seems adapted for space travel. Short-term exposure to cold and low oxygen doesn't affect them the same way it would us. After a moment's hesitation, Commander Kim nodded. Do it, but this doesn't change anything. Once they're gone, we're terminating that creature. Jiwoo powered down everything except minimal life support. The shuttle went dark and cold almost immediately. In the cargo bay, Hwan's bioluminescent wounds provided the only light, casting an eerie blue glow. They're getting closer, Jiwoo whispered, watching the scanner's last readings fade as it too powered down. For nearly an hour, they drifted in silence and darkness. The temperature dropped steadily. Jiwoo's breath formed little clouds in front of her face. Beside her, Commander Kim shivered despite his thermal uniform. A sudden bump against the hull made both officers freeze. They're right on top of us, Commander Kim mouthed silently. The scraping continued along the shuttle's exterior. Scanning equipment, Jiwoo guessed. Or maybe magnetic grapples searching for metal debris. In the cargo bay, Hwan began to move. No, Jiwoo whispered, rushing back. Stay still. But the war beast wasn't trying to escape or attack. Instead, it had curled its massive body around the shuttle's core systems, the ones most vulnerable to cold. Its body temperature, naturally, higher than a human's, created a living insulation layer keeping the critical systems from freezing. Commander Kim watched in disbelief. It's protecting the shuttle? Protecting us, Jiwoo corrected softly. The scraping sounds eventually moved away, and the scanner weakly showed the Vrexian patrol continuing its sweep in another direction. Jiwoo began restoring power, starting with heat. As warmth returned to the shuttle, she approached Hwan, placing a grateful hand on its armored flank. Thank you, she said simply. To her shock, she felt that strange mental touch again, stronger this time. Not words exactly, but clear feelings. Relief, gratitude, and something unexpected. Fear. Not of her or Commander Kim, but of being returned to the Vrexians. Commander Kim watched the exchange, his expression troubled. You can communicate with it? Not exactly. It's more like impressions. Emotions. Jiwoo looked up at him. Sir, Hwan is terrified of being returned to the Vrexians. Whatever they did to these creatures. Hwan, you named it? Yes, sir. It means bright in my language. Commander Kim holstered his weapon slowly, his rigid military bearing softening slightly as he studied the creature. My grandfather told stories of the war on Earth, said sometimes the bravest act wasn't fighting, but recognizing when not to. Jiwoo held her breath, hardly daring to hope. The commander sighed heavily. Research Outpost Sigma is 3 days from here. They have better medical facilities and xenobiologists who might make sense of this. He fixed Jiwoo with a stern look. But you take full responsibility for this creature. If it so much as twitches wrong, I'll space it myself. Understood? Yes, sir. Thank you, sir, Jiwoo said, relief flooding through her. As Commander Kim returned to his shuttle to arrange their passage, Jiwoo turned back to Hwan. The war beast's amber eye seemed brighter somehow, more aware. "We're going somewhere safer," she told it, not knowing if it truly understood her words. "Somewhere we can help you properly." That strange mental touch came again, and this time, beneath the swirl of emotions, Jiwoo almost thought she caught something else, the shadow of actual words forming in her mind. Not weapon, friend. The convoy moved cautiously through the contested sector, Commander Kim's shuttle in front, Jiwoo's medical vessel following behind. They traveled at half speed, the extra time necessary to accommodate Hwan's fragile condition. In the cargo bay, the war beast rested on a makeshift support structure Jiwoo had assembled from cargo netting and emergency foam. Outpost Sigma estimates 3 more days at current speed. Commander Kim's voice crackled over the comm. "Any change in your passenger's status?" Jiwoo checked her medical readings. "Stable. The tissue regeneration is remarkable. Almost 20% of damaged areas have begun healing. Keep me updated." Kim out. Alone again with her patient, Jiwoo continued her work, carefully removing fragments of metal embedded in Hwan's armored hide. The creature remained still during these impromptu surgeries, only occasionally rumbling when she touched particularly sensitive areas. "I wonder what you really are," she murmured, placing another fragment in a specimen container. "These look like control implants, not battle damage." That night cycle, while checking fluid levels in what she had determined was Hwan's circulatory system, Jiwoo felt a stronger mental touch than before. She gasped, nearly dropping her equipment as images flooded her mind. Strange worlds with crystal forests, vast creatures like Hwan soaring through golden clouds, and then darkness, pain, laboratories filled with Rexian scientists. "You're trying to talk to me," she whispered, placing her hand gently on the smooth area above Hwan's eye. "Show me again, slower this time." The images came more clearly. A peaceful species that once traveled the stars captured by Rexians, painfully transformed into living weapons. Hwan's true name was unpronounceable, but the concept translated roughly to far-seeing one. His people were called the Nemari. "You were never weapons," Jiwoo said softly. "They enslaved your entire species." Hwan's massive eye blinked once in confirmation. A sudden alarm blared from the cockpit. Jiwoo rushed forward, checking the readouts. No. The primary engine cooling system was failing, temperature rising dangerously. Without repairs, they'd be stranded in contested space, easy prey for Rexian patrols. "Commander Kim," she called urgently over the comm, "I have an engine malfunction. Need to stop for repairs." "Negative, Park. Too dangerous to stop here. Can you limp along until we reach the next debris field?" Jiwoo studied the readouts. "Negative, sir. 20 minutes max before critical failure." The commander's frustrated sigh came through clearly. "I'll circle back to provide cover. Make it quick." Jiwoo powered down the engines and suited up for an external repair. The cooling line would need to be bypassed, a tricky operation in open space. As she prepared to exit through the airlock, a heavy thud behind her made her turn. Hwan had dragged himself from the cargo bay, his massive body barely fitting through the connecting door. "You shouldn't be moving," Jiwoo scolded, concerned about reopening his wounds. The war beast's eye fixed on her, then on her repair kit, then back to her. Another mental touch, this time with clear intention, an offer of help. "You know about starship engines?" Hwan's eye blinked once. More images flowed. Nemari working alongside machines, an intuitive understanding of energy systems. "Your people were engineers before they were weapons," Jiwoo realized. "Can you really help?" In answer, Hwan extended one of his smaller limbs, a appendage she hadn't realized was prehensile. The digits at its end were surprisingly delicate. "All right then," she said, making a quick decision. "Let's try together." The repair was precarious. Jiwoo floated outside the shuttle, tethered securely, while Hwan remained inside, one limb extended through the partially opened airlock. Working together, they created a bypass for the damaged cooling line. Hwan's assistance proved invaluable. His limb could reach places Jiwoo couldn't, and he seemed to intuitively understand the shuttle's systems despite never having seen human technology before. Within 15 minutes, the engines were operational again. "Impressive work, Park," Commander Kim commented when they resumed their journey. "Didn't think those repairs could be done so quickly." Jiwoo glanced at Hwan, who had returned to the cargo bay. "I had help." "From the war beast?" "From my patient," she corrected. The Namari were a spacefaring species before the Rexians weaponized them. They understand technology, perhaps better than we do. A long silence followed. "That complicates things," the commander finally said. "How so, sir?" "Intelligence just sent an alert. The Vrexians are offering a massive bounty for the return of any lost assets from the battle, specifically their war beasts. They're claiming we stole military property." Jiwoo's blood ran cold. "They're property to the Vrexians, but they're people, Commander. Enslaved people." "I know that now," he replied quietly. "But not everyone will see it that way. Some might be tempted by that bounty." That night, while Commander Kim's shuttle docked with hers to share power resources, Jiwoo sat beside Hwan, describing Outpost Sigma and the scientists there who might help free other Namari. The mental connection between them strengthened with each passing hour, moving beyond simple images to more complex concepts. "Others like me," came the thought, still alien but increasingly coherent. Still fighting, still enslaved. "How many of your people did the Vrexians take?" Jiwoo asked. Images of vast breeding facilities, thousands of Namari young being altered, fitted with control implants. All that remain. Original world destroyed. Jiwoo's heart ached. "We'll help them if we can. First, we need to get you somewhere safe." The mental touch carried gratitude, but also growing concern. "They search. They coming." Before Jiwoo could ask what he meant, Commander Kim burst through the connecting airlock, his expression grim. Long-range scanners picked up a Vrexian dreadnought, changing course to intercept. He looked at Hwan. "They're hunting for him specifically." "How?" "Our emissions are minimal. They must have tracking technology in the control implants." The commander studied Hwan thoughtfully. "We need to change course. Head for the Morian Nebula instead. We can use the radiation interference to mask our signature." Hwan's mental touch reached out, not just to Jiwoo this time, but to Commander Kim as well. Both humans gasped as images filled their minds. Vrexian ships, their unique propulsion systems, and most crucially, how the Namari could sense and navigate what they called void currents, invisible pathways through space that allowed for faster travel. "That's how they move so quickly," Commander Kim whispered in realization. "Their entire military advantage depends on enslaved Namari," Jiwoo finished. "Without the war beasts, their ships would be no faster than ours." Hwan's mental voice touched their minds again. "Can show safe path, through currents where they cannot follow." The commander hesitated only briefly. "Show me." Using the mental connection, Hwan guided them to adjust their course. Just a few degrees difference, but into what looked like empty space on their scanners. As they traveled, Commander Kim's instruments recorded unusual gravitational fluctuations, invisible corridors that pulled their ships along at increasing speed. "It's like riding a river current," Jiwoo marveled, watching their velocity increase while engine output remained constant. "We're moving at nearly twice normal speed." By the next day, the Vrexian dreadnought had fallen far behind, unable to track them through the void current. As they approached the nebula's edge, Jiwoo sat beside Hwan, gently cleaning his healing wounds. The massive creature had grown stronger each day, and the mental connection between them had deepened. "If what you've shown us is true, you could change the entire course of this war," she said quietly. "Not weapon anymore," came the clear thought. "Choose to help. Different." "Yes," Jiwoo agreed, resting her hand on his armored hide. "Very different." From the cockpit doorway, Commander Kim watched the exchange, his expression thoughtful. "Officer Park," he said finally, "contact Outpost Sigma. Tell them we're bringing in someone they need to meet, not as a specimen, but as a potential ally." For the first time in what felt like forever, Jiwoo smiled. Yes, sir. As their shuttles continued through space riding the invisible currents, Hwan shared more memories of his people, their history, their culture, and their hope for freedom. With each passing hour, the bond between human and Namari grew stronger, built on a foundation of trust that had begun with a single act of compassion on a battlefield where none was expected. Outpost Sigma appeared in the viewport, a sprawling research station built into a small moon's cratered surface. Its domes and antennae glinted in the light of a distant sun, a human outpost on the edge of contested space. As their shuttles approached, a welcoming committee assembled in the main hangar, scientists and military personnel alike curious about the mysterious cargo Commander Kim had described in deliberately vague terms. Remember, Jiwoo said to Hwan as she prepared the shuttle for docking, some people here might be afraid of you at first, just like Commander Kim was. Understand, came the now familiar mental touch. We'll be still. The docking clamps engaged, with a metallic thud. Through the viewport, Jiwoo could see Research Director Min Ji-yoon waiting, her usual composed expression tinged with excitement. Beside her stood Security Chief Sunwoo Kang, hand resting casually near his sidearm, a posture Jiwoo had come to recognize as standard for military personnel when facing the unknown. You ready? She asked Hwan. The massive eye blinked once. Ready. Commander Kim entered through the connecting airlock. I'll go first. Explain the situation before they see him. Less chance of someone panicking. Jiwoo nodded gratefully. Thank you, sir. Minutes passed as Commander Kim spoke with the welcoming committee outside. Through the viewport, Jiwoo watched expressions change from curiosity to disbelief, and in Security Chief Kang's case, obvious alarm. The security chief's voice rose, though the words were muffled by the shuttle's hull. Finally, the outer airlock opened and Research Director Yoon stepped in alone, her eyes wide with scientific curiosity. Medical Officer Park, she greeted. Then her gaze shifted to the cargo bay where Hwan waited. Oh my. Jiwoo made quick introductions. Director Yoon, this is Hwan. He's a Namari, not just a war beast as our intelligence suggested. He's sentient, intelligent, and can communicate telepathically. Director Yoon approached cautiously, her initial shock giving way to professional interest. Remarkable. The neural complexity must be extraordinary. She looked at Jiwoo. And you say it? He can share thoughts? Hello? Hwan projected gently. Director Yoon gasped, one hand flying to her temple. That's incredible. She turned to Jiwoo with newfound respect. You were right to bring him here. Our xenobiology team will want to examine those control implants immediately. The first few days at Outpost Sigma passed in a whirlwind of activity. Hwan was moved to a larger research bay where Jiwoo continued to oversee his care, now assisted by an enthusiastic team of scientists. Most were fascinated by their visitor, especially xenobiologist Dr. Hyunki Lee, who worked tirelessly to understand Namari physiology. These implants are barbaric, Dr. Lee declared on the third day examining scan results. They've hardwired pain receptors directly to obedience centers in his brain. Disobedience would cause unimaginable suffering. Can you remove them? Jiwoo asked. Some, yes. The deeper ones are integrated with vital systems. Those will take time to safely disconnect. Not everyone at the outpost welcomed their unusual guest. Security Chief Kang made his objections known at every opportunity, especially during staff meetings. We're harboring what the Vrexians consider stolen military technology, he argued during one particularly heated discussion. If they discover he's here, they'll attack in force. This outpost isn't equipped for a military assault. He's not technology, he's a refugee, Commander Kim countered, surprising Jiwoo with his defense. And the information he's provided about void currents is already helping our fleet evade Vrexian patrols. Security Chief Kang's expression remained hard. One asset isn't worth the lives of everyone on this station. That night, while most of the outpost slept, Jiwoo worked late in the research bay. Juan seemed restless, his massive form shifting uncomfortably. "What's wrong?" she asked, immediately checking his vitals. "Danger," came the anxious thought. "Someone. Reaching out." "Reaching out? What do you mean?" Before Juan could answer, Dr. Lee burst through the door, his face pale. "We have a problem. Someone sent an encrypted transmission to Vrexian space. I detected it while monitoring communications for my research." "What kind of transmission?" Jiwoo felt cold dread spreading through her chest. "Coordinates. Our coordinates." Dr. Lee looked at Juan grimly. "Someone just told the Vrexians exactly where to find their missing property." "Can feel them coming," Juan projected, his mental voice tinged with fear. "Many ships." Jiwoo didn't hesitate. She hit the emergency comm button. "Commander Kim, we have a situation." Within minutes, the commander arrived with Director Yoon. When they heard Dr. Lee's discovery, Director Yoon's face hardened. Who would do this? Everyone understands what's at stake. Jiwoo thought of Security Chief Kang's concerns, his constant objections. "I think I might know." A quick security check confirmed their suspicions. Chief Kang had accessed the communications array during the night shift and sent an unauthorized transmission. By the time they confronted him in his quarters, he was unrepentant. "I did what was necessary to protect this outpost," he stated flatly. "The Vrexians promised to retrieve their property without harming the station if we cooperate." "Their property is a sentient being," Jiwoo shouted, furious. Commander Kim's expression was cold. "You've committed treason, Chief Kang. Not only did you contact an enemy without authorization, but you've also endangered this entire outpost." "How long do we have?" Director Yoon asked grimly. Dr. Lee checked his tablet. "Long-range scanners show a Vrexian battle group changing course toward us. 12 hours, maybe less." "We need to evacuate," Commander Kim decided. "I'll contact Fleet Command. Request immediate extraction." "And Juan?" Jiwoo asked. A momentary silence fell over the room. "The Vrexians want their war beast," Chief Kang said. "Give it to them and they'll leave us alone." "Not an option," Commander Kim stated firmly. "He's coming with us." Back in the research bay, Jiwoo explained the situation to Juan. The Namari took the news with surprising calm. "Not safe here. Not safe with your fleet either. Vrexians will follow." "Then where?" Jiwoo asked desperately. An image formed in her mind. The nearby moon's extensive cave systems, naturally shielded from scans by mineral deposits. "Hide there, until safe." As evacuation alarms blared throughout the outpost, Jiwoo, Commander Kim, Dr. Lee, and Director Yoon formulated a plan. Most personnel would evacuate normally, drawing Vrexian attention while a small team took Juan to the moon's northern caves. "I'm going with him," Jiwoo insisted. "So am I," Dr. Lee added. "He still needs medical attention, and I'm the only one who understands the implant removal process." Commander Kim nodded. "I'll coordinate the main evacuation and try to buy you time." As the outpost emptied, Jiwoo and Dr. Lee transported Juan to a small mining shuttle. The journey to the moon's surface was tense, but mercifully brief. They landed near a cave entrance, concealing the shuttle under camouflage netting. The caves were cold and dark, illuminated only by their portable lights and Juan's faintly glowing wounds. They established a makeshift camp in a large cavern deep within the system, using equipment they'd salvaged from the research bay. "The mineral content in these rocks should mask any energy signatures," Dr. Lee said, setting up a portable generator, "but we'll need to be careful with power usage." As they settled in, Juan seemed to grow stronger. Away from the outpost's equipment and surrounded by natural rock, his telepathic abilities expanded. That night, as Jiwoo kept watch, his mental touch felt different, clearer, more articulate. "My people were not always as you see me now," he explained, sharing vivid images of elegant beings that resembled Juan, but more streamlined, without the brutal weaponized modifications. "We navigated the void currents between stars. We were explorers, builders." Was what happened. Jiwoo asked softly. Vrexians needed our ability to sense currents. First came as traitors, then as conquerors. Our resistance failed. Homeworld destroyed. Survivors. Changed. Dr. Lee, listening nearby, shook his head sadly. They didn't just enslave your people. They erased your history. Yes. New generations born in captivity. Modified before consciousness. Never knowing freedom. A terrible realization dawned on Jiwoo. That's why they're so desperate to get you back. You're not just one escaped weapon. You're living proof of their crimes. Hwan's massive eye fixed on her. More than that. I know truth of their power. All Vrexian military advantage depends on us. Without Namari, their ships blind to currents. Without currents, no surprise attacks, no quick escapes. Their entire empire is built on your enslavement, Dr. Lee whispered. Yes, and now? Hwan's mental voice grew stronger, more determined than Jiwoo had ever felt it. Now one is free. Now one remembers. Now one can teach others to remember too. In that moment, hiding in the darkness of an alien cave, Jiwoo understood that they weren't just saving one being from cruelty. They were holding the first spark of what could become a revolution. 3 days passed in the caves, their small group surviving on emergency rations while Vrexian ships prowled the system. Dr. Lee worked tirelessly, removing the accessible control, implants from Hwan's body. With each extraction, the Namari's telepathic abilities grew stronger, his mental voice clearer and more complex. They're still searching, Jiwoo reported, returning from her scouting position near the cave entrance. 2 shuttles circling the northern quadrant. Dr. Lee wiped sweat from his brow. They're persistent, must really want their war beast back. Their mistake, Jiwoo said, kneeling beside Hwan's massive form. How are you feeling? Stronger. Clearer. Hwan's mental voice now carried subtle emotional undertones, like speaking with someone whose accent was fading. But others suffer while I hide. Jiwoo understood his meaning. Somewhere out there, thousands of Namari remained enslaved, their minds locked away behind Vrexian control implants. Their comm unit crackled suddenly, a secure channel opening. Commander Kim's voice came through, tense and hurried. Park, do you copy? Here, Commander, what's happening? The situation has escalated. The Vrexians brought in a dreadnought. They're demanding we turn over stolen military assets or face orbital bombardment. Jiwoo exchanged alarmed glances with Dr. Lee. The evacuation? Incomplete. 200 personnel still on the outpost, including Director Yoon. They've blocked our remaining shuttles. Hwan's mental touch brushed against Jiwoo's consciousness. Must end this. Others will die because of me. No one's dying because of you, Jiwoo said firmly. The Vrexians are responsible for their own actions. Have plan, Hwan continued. But dangerous, need your help. The plan Hwan proposed was audacious, perhaps even suicidal. Using his growing telepathic abilities, he had located the Vrexian flagship in orbit, and more importantly, had sensed the other Namari aboard, their minds dulled but not completely unreachable. You want me to let myself be captured? Jiwoo clarified after Hwan finished explaining. Yes. Bring disruptor device Dr. Lee created, small enough to hide. Once aboard, activate near central control node. Dr. Lee frowned. The neural disruptor is experimental. It might temporarily disable the control implants, but I can't guarantee for how long. Moments may be enough. If others wake, even briefly, revolution possible. It's too dangerous, Jiwoo protested. Even if I could get aboard, they'd detect any device. Not necessarily, Dr. Lee said thoughtfully. I could modify the disruptor to mimic biological signatures. They'd scan it as part of your body. Commander Kim's voice came through the comm. Again. Whatever you're planning, decide quickly. The Vrexians have given a 1-hour ultimatum. Jiwoo took a deep breath. All right, I'll do it. Despite Commander Kim's objections, they set the plan in motion. Dr. Lee worked frantically to disguise the neural disruptor as a medical implant, while Jiwoo prepared herself mentally for what was to come. "Thank you," Hwan projected as she prepared to leave. "Your courage reminds me of old Namari stories, heroes who crossed void between worlds." Jiwoo smiled despite her fear. "Just stay alive until I get back." She traveled to the rendezvous point alone where Commander Kim waited with a small team. "This is insanity," he muttered, helping her into a shuttle. "The moment they realize you don't have the war beast with you, they'll scan me for tracking. Devices which they won't find because I don't have any," Jiwoo finished. "All I need is access to their central ship." The commander's expression was grave. "And if you don't come back, then make sure what Hwan taught us about the void currents gets to Fleet Command. It could change everything." The exchange was eerily simple. Jiwoo's shuttle approached the Vrexian blockade with surrender signals broadcasting. A tractor beam locked on, pulling her into a massive hangar bay where armored Vrexian soldiers waited. The aliens were tall, their exoskeleton-like armor making them appear even more imposing. Their elongated faces featured 4 eyes and mandible-like mouth, parts that clicked rhythmically as they communicated. They searched her roughly, scanning for weapons or tracking devices. Just as Dr. Lee had predicted, the neural disruptor registered as a medical implant, part of her own biology. "Where is the war beast?" demanded one officer, its voice translated by a mechanical device at its throat. "I'll only speak to your commander," Jiwoo replied, projecting a confidence she didn't feel. They brought her to the bridge, a vast chamber dominated by glowing control panels and viewing screens. And there, Jiwoo saw them. Namari, at least a dozen, connected to the ship's systems by cruel-looking interfaces. Their massive bodies were even more extensively modified than Hwan's, with weapons and mechanical components fused directly to their flesh. The Vrexian commander approached, taller than the others with elaborate markings on its armor. "Human," it clicked. "Where is our property?" "The Namari you're looking for is not your property," Jiwoo said clearly. "None of them are." The commander made a sound like grinding stone. Laughter, perhaps. "Namari? Is that what it calls itself? Amusing. These are war beasts, engineered for our use. They're sentient beings you enslaved," Jiwoo countered, carefully moving toward what appeared to be a central control node. "And they remember what they once were." The commander's 4 eyes narrowed. "Impossible. Their memories are wiped during modification." "Are they?" Jiwoo placed her hand casually against the node, feeling the disruptor warming against her palm, ready to activate. "Or did you just bury them too deep to reach?" Before the commander could respond, Jiwoo pressed the concealed activation switch. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a pulse of energy, invisible but felt like pressure against the eardrums, radiated through the bridge. The connected Namari twitched, their massive eyes blinking rapidly as if waking from a long sleep. The Vrexians moved immediately, rushing to terminals, barking orders. Too late. One by one, the Namari's eyes focused, awareness returning. A telepathic wave swept through the ship, so powerful even Jiwoo could feel it. Rage, grief, and sudden, terrible clarity. The nearest war beast tore free from its restraints with a roar that shook the deck plating. Others followed, massive limbs sweeping Vrexian soldiers aside like toys. Chaos erupted. Alarms blared as the ship listed suddenly, its navigation systems disrupted when the Namari disconnected. Jiwoo ducked behind a console, watching as centuries of suppressed fury unleashed itself. Through the mental connection formed during her time with Hwan, Jiwoo sensed something incredible happening. The awakened Namari were reaching out, their telepathic abilities linking to others on nearby ships. The rebellion was spreading like wildfire. A massive explosion rocked the ship. Through the viewport, Jiwoo saw human vessels appearing, a fleet responding to Commander Kim's emergency signal. Among them was a small mining shuttle, moving with impossible speed through void currents invisible to sensors. "Jiwoo," came Hwan's familiar mental touch. "Others awakening. Need to find you." "I'm on the bridge," she responded mentally, still amazed at how natural the communication had become. Minutes later, as the battle raged through the ship, the bridge doors burst open. Juan entered, his massive form now moving with newfound grace and purpose. Behind him came Commander Kim, Dr. Lee, and a squad of human Marines. The reunion was brief. There was no time for celebration with the ship coming apart around them. Together, they fought their way back to the hangar bay, joined by liberated Nimari who protected the humans with their armored bodies. As they escaped aboard emergency shuttles, the Vrexian flagship began to break apart, its systems overloaded by the sudden rebellion of its living components. Throughout the fleet, other ships suffered similar fates as the awakening spread from vessel to vessel. Safely aboard a human cruiser, Jiwoo watched through the viewport as freed Nimari ships, once Vrexian vessels but now under new control, formed up alongside the human fleet. The neural disruptor's effect had been temporary, but it had created enough of an opening for the strongest Nimari minds to break through permanently, then help free their brethren. In the medical bay, Juan communicated with his newly liberated kin through their telepathic network. The plan had succeeded beyond their wildest hopes. Without their Nimari navigators and weapon systems, the remaining Vrexian ships retreated in disarray. "What happens now?" Jiwoo asked, treating a wound Juan had received during the rescue. "Now, freedom," came the reply, stronger and clearer than ever. "Many still enslaved, but we remember who we are now. We'll find others. Free them, too." Commander Kim entered the medical bay, his uniform singed but his expression satisfied. Fleet Command is buzzing with reports. The Vrexian forces are in chaos across 3 sectors. Without the Nimari to navigate the void currents, they've lost their primary tactical advantage. Director Yoon, rescued from the outpost, joined them. "The Admiralty is already discussing peace terms. This could end the war." "And the Nimari?" Jiwoo asked. "Recognized as sentient allies," Commander Kim said firmly. "I've made that non-negotiable." 3 days later, as diplomatic ships prepared for the first official meeting between human leaders and liberated Nimari representatives, Jiwoo found Juan in the observation deck, his massive form silhouetted against the stars. "How does it feel?" she asked. "Being free? Strange? New? Some pain still from removed implants? But good pain. Healing pain." Jiwoo nodded, understanding. "What will you do now?" "Help others heal, then rebuild, find new home for Nimari. Remember, old ways, old songs." "Ambassador Juan," she tested the title. "It suits you." The Nimari's mental touch carried warmth and something like humor. "Prefer friend Juan." "Friend works too," Jiwoo agreed, smiling. They stood together in comfortable silence watching the stars. Outside the viewport, a liberated Nimari ship performed a graceful arc through space, riding invisible currents with an elegance no human vessel could match. Small kindness, Juan reflected. One human who saw person, not monster, changed everything. "I just did what anyone would do," Jiwoo said softly. "No, not anyone. You." Juan's massive eye turned to regard her. "In darkest times, matters most who we choose to be. You chose compassion when others chose fear." As diplomatic shuttles prepared to dock, carrying officials eager to meet the Nimari representatives, Jiwoo thought about the long journey from battlefield to peace talks, all starting with a single decision to see beyond appearances, beyond fear. Not a war beast, but a person. Not an enemy, but a potential friend. Sometimes the bravest actions weren't the grandest ones, but the simplest. Choices to recognize the personhood in those different from ourselves, even when they appeared as monsters on a battlefield.